Good evening. My name is Maureen and this is the news update on E. Now to the headlines. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has admitted a private member's motion from 3 members of the Minority Caucus for an inquiry into expenditure made by government since the outbreak of COVID-19. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, the Minority Chief Whip Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak, and the Ranking Member of the Finance Committee, Dr. Cassiel Atuforsin, filed the motion seeking a bipartisan parliamentary committee chaired by a member of the minority to probe COVID-19 expenditure. The private member's motion was captured in the order paper for Thursday, November 4th, 2021. The minority in Parliament had previously petitioned the Auditor General to audit expenditure on food and water government supplied to vulnerable groups during the 3-week COVID-19 partial lockdown. That petition invoked Section 16 of the Audit Service Act 2000 and called on the Auditor General to undertake a special audit into the expenditure on the 280.3 million cedis allocated for the provision of food and water under the Coronavirus Alleviation Program. The Chamber for Local Governance raised some concerns with welfare support and urged the government to account for the actual amount of money spent on feeding the needy. From January next year, the Registrar General's Department will only accept the Ghana card for the registration of businesses. According to Registrar General Jemima Owari, all other requirements such as the tax identification number from the Ghana Revenue Authority will no longer be of use. She added that currently, the registration system is being upgraded to take up the NIA cards after the government's directive. Additionally, the 17 processes one ought to undergo before registering a business have been simplified to 3. This is due to the merging of forms and processes with other institutions. Meanwhile, work is due to begin on Botswana's second privately owned coal mine in the first quarter of next year, despite calls to abandon coal. At the ongoing COP26 climate conference in Glasgow, the South African country signed up to a global commitment to reduce the use of heavy polluting coal, but opted out of a pledge to stop issuing new licenses to mine the fossil fuel. Botswana is edging ahead with developing its coal resources, which are estimated at 200 billion tons, as it looks to wean its economy off a dependence on diamonds. Matla Resources was awarded a license in February and had hoped to start building the 1.2 million tons per annum mine this year, but was stalled by the COVID-19 pandemic and regulatory delays. Now, the company is looking to proceed after a funding deal with Frankfurt-listed HMS Bergbo, which in a $45 million debt and equity deal concluded in April, took a 51% stake in it. 9 anti-government factions are forming an alliance to push for a political transition in Ethiopia. There's been more pressure on Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as rebel forces advance towards the capital. Several of the factions have armed fighters, although it was not clear whether they all do. 2 of them, the Oromo Liberation Army and the Agao Democratic Movement, confirmed the move to Reuters. The pact will be signed in Washington. Called the United Front of Ethiopian Federalist and Confederalist Forces, the alliance includes the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which has been fighting Abiy's government for a year in a war that has killed thousands of people and forced more than 2 million more from their homes. Leaders of the group said the front is being formed to reverse the harmful effects of the Abiy Ahmed rule on the peoples of Ethiopia and beyond, and in recognition of the great need to collaborate and join forces towards a safe transition. Spokespeople for the government and foreign ministry did not respond to requests for comment on the alliance. Activists took over the UN Climate Summit in Scotland today, capping off a week of government pledges with a students' march, youth-led presentations, and an iceberg shipped from Greenland to Glasgow's River Clyde to dramatize the plight of the Arctic. Today's takeover by civic groups is an acknowledgement of how young campaigners have raised public understanding of climate change and how their future will be affected by decisions being made now. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote on President Joe Biden's mammoth Build Back Better legislation, which includes $555 billion of measures designed to limit greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change. The British president of the conference urged national negotiators to push harder, with just a week left to secure more ambitious commitments to stop the world slide into climate catastrophe. So far, the summit has yielded deals to try to phase out coal over the next 3 decades, reduce deforestation, and curb methane, a far more potent, if short-lived, greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. That's all for today. My name is Maureen.